Nancy Forrester here. I'm the director of the National EFT Training Institute, and I'm here with Candace Fox. Thank you, Candace. It's just a joy to be doing this series of videos with you and listening to you talk about what's so close to your heart and working with people who are dealing with addictions and really introducing them to emotional freedom techniques, tapping, and how it's such a powerful tool in your repertoire. And I know you're continuing your studies at the university level around professional addiction studies, and you've been studying with NeftTi, your master practitioner with us, Conscious EFT practitioner, emotional success coach with us, lots of other energy tools in your belt too. So just so happy to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we told the people that we would have a conversation about a particular case, a particular client of yours. So I'm all ears.
Yeah. So I also just want to say, Nancy, just kind of quickly, really funny. I think all of my professors and instructors at McMaster thus far know about Conscious EFT and EFT because I have managed to weave that into all of my papers, even though I was like, how is this going to? So I'm spreading the word as well over there. So yeah, lovely to be here with you.
Well, we are on a mission, aren't we? We have a movement here because we have personally benefited. We have professionally seen the impact of working energetically. We're not throwing anything out with the bathwater, keep all our cognitive, behavioral, somatic, everything else we're doing. But let's really understand that at the core, we are energy. And so the more direct we can work with that, wow, the more service we can provide to our clients. So I'm thrilled to be in the movement with you.
I told you you're leading the way, and I'll follow. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about this particular client. And I've mentioned before that I work with a lot of neurodivergent individuals, and so I do want to say this client, and again, permission to share. This client, like a lot of clients, late diagnosis, much like me, late diagnosis of ADHD. Binge eating had been with this client for quite a long time. That was the reason this client came to see me, was particularly around the binge eating. Again, the first session was all about psychoeducation and just talking about the nervous system. And then after that first session, as I do with all my clients, I invite them to tap on their own using no words. There's just the bronze level tapping, Nancy, like you mentioned earlier, and like, I've been taught, and that is just tapping on the 8 or 9 acupressure points on the face and the body. And we can demonstrate that later.
Let's demonstrate that later for people who haven't been introduced to the basic algorithm.
And that just makes the work very accessible to all of my clients. We don't have to worry about the words. That's not to say that words might not come up, but we're not trying to find a sentence. So this particular client, great, psychoeducation blew their mind about just, right, like, holy schmoly, weaving in the neurodivergent piece into that just made so much more sense to this client. And they were able to sort of get a more of a bird's eye view of their like situation and childhood and all sorts of things.
And really that understanding that, hey, it's not just me. It's like, oh, I'm a human being. This is true for everybody.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. Really looking at the binge eating as a safety strategy, as a coping mechanism that a part created. And I really do want to emphasize that, internal family systems parts work is so crucial to, another thing that I love about Conscious EFT is that basically it plays with every other tool on the playground.
Yeah, I want to emphasize that too, that, parts work existed before IFS, and I love IFS's work, but boy, when you bring the energy work to the parts work, wow, match made in heaven.
Yes. So much of the work that I do, obviously Conscious EFT framework, safety, but parts work is in there 100%. And so moving along with this client, our second session we did have conversations around the binge eating, and we did some focus work on it. But really what kind of came out at the end of session 2 was a part that needed some love, some attention. And this client had sort of prefaced our sessions by saying that they had experienced some trauma, big T trauma. And I, in our psychoeducation, just let them know that we don't have to go there.
Right.
In fact, I'm okay if we don't. And if it comes up, we will approach it and we will handle it with safety and loving care, but we actually don't have to go there.
Right. Yeah. And in fact, that's contraindicated to go there until and unless that nervous system actually has the capacity to process the information of the big T trauma, which by definition they did not have at the time it happened. And so to think that we could then go there and process it today, that's an unreasonable expectation of the nervous system.
Yeah. The binge eating was a response to, I can't metabolize this, I can't process this.
That's right.
So that's a big indicator. We can't go there. We won't go there. And so, yeah, we worked with this beautiful part. And, we've talked about this before, Nancy. The energy of that experience remains in the body. We bring everything from our past into our current, and it plays out in relationships, all sorts of situations. So we actually don't need to go there.
No, it's all here today.
Yeah.
Again, this is because we're working with energy, that the energy of the past, the present, the future, it's all present here in this particular moment where all those things intersect. And so this is our focus right here, right now, in this particular moment, where there is physical safety in the external environment. Perhaps there's not psychological internal safety for the client this time. There probably isn't. But in this moment, we can assure them of the physical external safety, which is incredibly important.
100%. Yeah. And so the work ended up, the work started to become more about differentiating between person, mature nervous system person, and part, and so beautifully giving this part the opportunity to let us know a little bit about them. And I think that is where sort of the joy sort of comes in, is when a client, and I'm even getting emotional thinking about this for them, but when a part gets to know, when a client gets to know this part so intimately, and they can communicate and they make sense of the situation around the binge eating. And we never ended up talking about the big T trauma, and we actually stopped talking about the eating disorder. That just wasn't relevant to what this beautiful part wanted for client, and what client wanted for part. They just wanted to move forward together in this beautiful relationship together.
That the whole binge eating was simply pointing toward what it was that nervous system actually needed and wanted, and what that beautiful human being is doing here on the earth at this time, right? That's the bigger conversation that we have in Conscious EFT.
I love that. One of the first things this part really just wanted was to be acknowledged and to be seen, and to be, they just wanted to know that client knew that they were there, that cared.
Yeah.
So, that's profound, like that relationship creation. I'm happy to say that relationship moving forward has been fruitful in so many ways. And I think I relate so much to this client because I'm a little bit of a goofball. This client is a little bit of a goofball. So their part is kind of like a goofball part that I have. So, all the parts show up. I call, with all my clients, we create this thing called the united parts of, and then you insert your name at the end. And so, all of my clients get to sort of, right, part of the work is figuring out, the different parts of them, and I make notes about these parts, and we really get to understand who this part is, and who that part might be working with, and what they're strategizing over here. And so I think the beautiful thing that I'm trying to sort of illustrate here in this sort of case study is, it has been my experience that the parts and the client they've already experienced that thing, whatever it might be. They actually don't need to experience it again. The addiction behavior is just a part needing love, support, to be acknowledged, to be cared for. Yeah. And that part doesn't want to go back there either. They want to move forward. And that's what it's all about. They want to just move forward together.
Yeah. And the piece that is allowing that to happen is acceptance, right? Of exactly who that part is and how they're trying to support the system, and to have that acknowledged and accepted and respected. Wow, that frees up the energy in the body to be moving optimally, which then is what allows the client to actually move forward in the way that they are called to in this world. So that the whole reason for being of the addiction is simply not necessary anymore.
Yeah.
And this is not an overnight miracle. Let's make sure people that idea. This is transformation.
Yeah. This has been, I've been working with this client, I want to say close to 2 years now. The work that we are doing now is completely different. And I there was a little pause in the work, and then client came back, and initially I was kind of like a little bit concerned, oh, why is client coming back? But it's totally and completely different from, what we're working on. So yeah, like for me, I just want to say, like, in terms of, me struggling in my addiction versus the time to really get solid on my recovery path, I would say from, 2018 to, I would say up until doing the advanced and master. And so 18, 19, 20. So that's 3 to 4 years versus a couple of decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not like trying to make promises for anyone, but it's just very different. It's just very different, this approach, and how we do things. And I think the biggest piece in that is the safety, safety.
Safety, 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 really recognizing that is the first imperative of every single nervous system, whether it happens to be human form or animal form. It's a biological imperative. We are based in assuring our survival. And if that's not present, then there is going to be no further development. It will shut down all growth in order to use the resources for survival and safety. And so as therapists, coaches, practitioners, educators, first responders, anyone who is working with a nervous system, we have to know how to support a nervous system in moving from its defensive threat mechanisms back into safety. But boy, when we do that, and with Conscious EFT, that's not a difficult thing to do. And then when that system comes back into safety, growth is a natural imperative. We don't have to make that happen. That's what's so exciting to me about this biological, energetic approach of Conscious EFT. We're simply supporting the system to do what it naturally does, which is a heck of a lot easier to be a practitioner, by the way.
Yeah. And I think this framework that you've sort of created, Nancy, has been really instrumental in terms of, working with a client in the here and now, what's presenting, and also that sort of oscillation or pendulation between, flaming the spark. Because I think a lot of times in therapy, there is no real emphasis or real opportunity. Like a client might have an awareness, but I think for the longest time, practitioners or clinicians or whatever have just been like, oh, well, that's great.
Right.
It's a lost opportunity
Sure
to
is.
get juicy and explore and all of that. And so I think part of that growth is also inviting play and exploration and creativity. And if we can't mirror that for our clients, then who else is going to give them permission? Because I know for me, I don't give myself permission to do those things on my own.
That's right.
I'm much more willing to go there when I'm feeling safe, when I'm with a practitioner in that moment who is willing to be like, oh, well, let's just explore that a little bit. Or, oh, I see a little lightness in you. What is,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Well, that understanding that growth happens through lightness and playfulness. It doesn't happen through heaviness. And unfortunately, sort of our traditional therapy approaches have been couched in heaviness, and there's a problem here. Something needs to be fixed. And, that's fine. We do that too in Conscious EFT. You've got to recognize what the issues are, but we don't stay there, right? The system will, as you say, spark. And we follow that spark into a little bit of pleasure, a little bit of joy. And that's the way that we actually build the capacity of that nervous system so that it organically processes the information that it hasn't had the capacity to do. It knows how to do that. We don't have to make it happen. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's the beautiful thing is, being able to bring that in to a session, but feeling confident enough to do that and safe to know when to do that and when not to do that. Cause I think that's also a big thing, that you've sort of, really laid out in terms of, how to do this work and, when too much is too much for that system, they start to shut down. And so, yeah, I've really obviously appreciated your work and that foundation. Cause I think without that foundation, I'm not sure how I would necessarily get the results with my clients. Because I think, yes, it's organic in sessions and we go with the flow, but at the end of the day, you do sort of have to have a framework to bounce off of. And that's safety for us practitioners, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, why don't we? I just think we were talking about EFT and tapping and singing its praises here. There may be people watching our video who don't actually know what the basic protocol is. And so would you be willing to just teach them the bronze algorithm, the bronze protocol? No words, so just super simple tapping on the points. This is an amazing just stress reduction technique in the moment. And
I love that you called it algorithm, and I'm going to have to use that. I just love that. Yeah. So I would just invite, individuals. We'll start at the corner of our eyebrow there. And again, when I say no words, that doesn't mean that, we're trying to empty our mind like meditation. It's not like that at all. We're just giving ourselves just a moment to decompress. So I'd invite you to get into a comfy position, feet on the ground, and just sort of relax. We'll go to the side of the eye point after, and remembering to breathe.
I like breathing.
Yeah, so do I. I love breathing.
One of my favorite things, actually.
Under the eye. And again, go at your own pace. Because I work in the neurodivergence community, I feel very compelled to say, if tapping is too much for you, we have this beautiful just tap and hold.
Nice.
Tap and hold, right? And so this is about you, not about me. So do what feels best for you. You don't have to go at my speed or pace at all. Under the nose. Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite points.
Yeah, me too. They're all my favorite points.
Yeah, I won't discriminate. Under the mouth.
That's right. We love and accept all the points.
All the points. We're going to move to the collarbone point now. A little trick of the trade here is just to put your arms by your sides and just flop those hands right up. There we go. And just find that point. I sometimes like to do a little T. I move around here a little bit. Again, now
sometimes these points are sore, like maybe we should just point that out, and that's just kind of letting you know maybe it's needing a little attention from you.
You might also feel some interesting sensations like a tingling sensation. I know when I first started tapping, my nasal passageway would just drain.
Mine too, for years actually, my eyes and my nasal passages, which I understand now was the draining of the inflammation. Yeah.
In the moment, though, you're just kind of like, well, I'll just go with it.
Yeah.
We'll move underneath the arm about 4 inches below the armpit. And again, this point for me, some people can be very sensitive. This point for me is not. And so I get a little in there. I'm a little aggressive with this point. But again, whatever feels best for you.
I think we should say too to people what's actually happening biologically here.
Absolutely.
You're actually sending chemical and electrical signals throughout the body, but especially to the emotional centers of the brain, and sending them the message, it's okay, I'm safe, it's all right, you don't need to be on alert here, everything's okay.
Beautiful. Yeah. Top of head. Yeah. This will interrupt. This will interrupt the stress response for sure. And anyone who is sort of feeling sort of some emotional uncomfortableness, I'll just say that. This is a really accessible and tangible tool that you can use just to sort of bring that body back into a relaxed state. I mean, we could talk about all the benefits and all the things that are happening in terms of brain waves and heart rate and all of that stuff. But just in terms of just an interruption of emotionality.
Right. It's like I couldn't, but I'm sure people could talk about why my car actually works the way it does, an internal combustion or something or other, but I don't care about any of that. I just want to turn the key and get to where I'm going. And so that's what our bronze tapping is all about. It's just turn the key and get this nervous system to where it's going to feel better. Yeah.
And I mean, I love it too, because, you know, I could tap for 1 minute. Sometimes I can tap for an hour, right? It's just, I can tap in the vehicle. I know this looks weird, people, so we don't expect you to walk down the mall tapping, but if you want to, you can certainly do that as well. But if I'm, you know, driving or something and I just want to massage a point, I'm at that point physically in my biology that even when I just touch.
Yes. Yeah, it's a retraining process, right? The biology then goes, oh, right, safety. I remember, this feels good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really, again, appreciate you and just love hanging out with you. So thank you for being you. Thank you for the work you do. And thank you for doing this video with me.
I had a lot of fun with you today. Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate the invitation.